Hello and welcome to Pet Voices Live, where we have the BlogPaws co-founders today. I'm your host, Chloe DeVita, former executive team member of BlogPaws, and we'll get into how that plays into this. But I am thrilled, and I think so many people here are thrilled, that we have my mother, Yvonne DeVita, which, real quick side story, whenever people are like, how'd you get involved in the pet industry? I always say, it's my mom's fault. So my mom, Yvonne DeVita, we have Caroline Golan. Is it Golan or Golan?
It's Golan. You got it.
Golan. Okay.
Yep.
Every time I say it, I question. So thank you. Caroline is here, and we have Tom Collins,
hey,
my mom's partner in crime and life and in business, wearing his.
I'm not confessing to anything.
Well, you've got the T-shirt on. You know,
That's
I think
right.
everybody missed the T-shirt. You got that one on. I got a little staff on. Aww. We're all BlogPaws geared out. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, because there is a pre-story, right, to BlogPaws and how it came about. And it starts more with my mom, Yvonne, and Caroline. So tell us a little bit. Mom, I'll start with you, and then Caroline chime in on how the two of you connected.
Yeah, really. Here's the exciting thing for me to remember, Caroline, is that I had this little pet blog that I pitched to Nestle Purina, and it was a really crazy time for Tom and I, because we loved blogging, but pet blogging wasn't something we did at the time. And I convinced them to sponsor my blog. I said, I'll start a pet blog, you sponsor it. And they said, okay. And they paid us a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And it was through that, I think, that I discovered Romeo the cat, that you connected with me. And I think we had a phone conversation where we wanted to get to know each other and hear the story of, I want to hear about Romeo the cat. Now, we have to go back to the fact that Romeo the cat was the biggest and most visible icon before Snotface the ferret. But Caroline, do you remember it that way?
It was pretty exciting. I mean, yeah. I think Romeo was, before I started the blog, he was a Twitter cat, and that's when Twitter was just exploding. I think a lot of BlogPaws members and community members probably were part of that. The Anna Pals.
Yes.
We had Twitter parties, and we raised money for animal rescues all over the world. We had, oh my gosh, we had people from everywhere. And so that was just so fun and such a wonderful group that came together. And again, like 2009, it was crazy. Like it was the Wild West for Twitter and social media. And all of these animals were on social media, so it was even crazier. And I think that might have been initially, Yvonne, how we met was on Twitter.
Might be. It might be.
We recognized this really great community and so much potential. We knew that social media and blogging was really taking off at that time, and there were brands out there that wanted to get involved and engage with these influencers. They just didn't know how. We saw it happening in the mommy space, mommy blogging space, and we just, I mean, of course it's always exciting time in social media, but at that moment it was fun time, I think, for everybody. You agree?
It was unique. It was really unique, because we went to BlogHer, Tom and I and you, and we met face to face at a BlogHer conference.
Yep.
And I remember that's where we met several pet bloggers.
I think Beth from P&G was there, wasn't she?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And Felissa, maybe?
No, I don't think Felissa was there. Was Felissa?
There were like a half a dozen, all women. This screen you're looking at has been my experience with BlogPaws.
Right.
At the very first one, I stood up on stage and opened the conference by thanking the other 6 men in the room of 220.
For being there.
But that's where I think we looked at each other. I remember looking at each other over the table and thinking, all of us must have been thinking the same thing, like, well, if BlogHer has this for the lifestyle bloggers, because they didn't want to be called mommy bloggers. Why can't we do it for pet bloggers?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, hey.
That's the genesis right there.
Yeah. And that's what I remember when you guys got back from BlogHer, because that was the summer of 2009. And I want to say it was early August. I feel like it was around your birthday, Mom. And when you got back and you were sharing with me all your excitement, you were so excited, all your excitement and all your ideas, and that you had met this wonderful woman, Caroline, and you were going to start this conference, and you were going to do this thing. And you know, me on the other side was like, but you talked about how there were all these hundreds of people there, and yet there was this like table, and it had a sign on it that said pet bloggers.
Right.
and I remember you saying to me, why is nobody doing this in the pet industry? It's such a big industry. It's such a loved industry. Why is nobody doing it in the pet industry? And that's kind of my memory of like you coming back and talking about that event and all of you getting together. And I, at that time, had no idea how serious you were about your idea.
Well, and we, I think Tom and Caroline and I, we were totally like, yeah, why can't we do this? Who are they to just have the corner on? And at that time, though, Caroline, Tom, you probably remember this. There were a lot of other communities popping up also. So the mommy bloggers weren't the only community. There were foodies, right?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Type A Mom, I think, was around by then.
Yeah.
A couple of other, and they all seem to revolve around women in one way or another. And to me, the big blessings at that moment were we were too dumb to know what we didn't know.
Totally.
We've been to lots of conferences. I've been going to conferences since the 90s. It just didn't look that hard to do one. And then the other huge blessing was when we couldn't convince Chloe to join us immediately. I believe it was Caroline who knew somebody in Columbus that Rebecca was part of a firm, an event planning firm there.
Yeah.
And we said, well, let's have it in Columbus, and these guys can help us. And the smartest move we ever did was bringing in Rebecca.
Well, and we never let her go.
That's right. And we did it in Columbus because I wasn't living in Columbus at the time, but that's my hometown where I live now, actually, again. But if you remember, I was like, well, if we do it in Columbus and nobody shows up, I'll just make everybody I know come. So brands will be happy. And
you knew a guy with a space. Because when we first thought of this, we thought, 30 to 50 people maybe.
We thought it would be small.
And you had a friend with a space that could house 60 if push came to shove.
Yeah.
And boy, a couple of weeks after we launched the website, we knew it was going to be bigger than 60.
Yeah.
I remember that because you had initially talked about, I think you called it a pod camp or something. It was going to be like a
camp or bar camp, yeah.
But it was going to be like a day, just a day of stuff, and then that was like, well, nope, we need more than that. You just blew it out of the water.
It was the community's interest in it, but then it was also the brands were interested. During the time,
we figured to do it that way. There's actually there used to be anyway, a wiki website for how to plan a pod camp, and they suggested between $5,000 and $10,000 budget. Your learning sessions are kind of self-organizing. People will put up their hand and say, I can speak about such and such, and so that was how the original planning started. And we launched our website on December 9th, and before Christmas, we had 2 sponsors with checks in hand.
And no bank account.
And Chloe had to quit the bank and all that stuff for us. So that's it very quickly. We were going to have, in short order, we were going to have more people there representing the sponsors than we originally planned for attendees.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was not, it was a very unusual, I haven't before or since, been able to get sponsors or get somebody to pay to do something as easy as it was at that time, because there was there was nothing, and the sponsors recognized. They were like, oh my gosh, if you can bring all these folks together, heck yeah, we're there. And
and I think too that a really big a big part of it was that the three of us, as we were talking it out and deciding, we're going to do this, I don't know, we just got along and we made the decisions. And Caroline, I think you knew someone who could create a logo because, you're in PR. I think I was used to pitching the brands, so I brought Parina on board. And basically, it was just who's going to do what, and we delegated according to what needed to be done and who could do it. And
the complementary skills were really great. I mean, I just enjoyed staying in the background, and I've been building blogs and websites and so on for years by then for us, and so I just kind of stayed out of their way. And gave them the tools to publicize things.
Right. He was like, okay.
Yes, and what I do remember is after that first event, which again, both you all came back from with such a, not just excitement, but it felt like it filled like a heart space, like it was a movement, right? I remember you guys and you launched the community after that. That's when the community opened up, was after the first event. And then in May, we all, being my mom and Tom, got in a plane and went to visit Caroline, and we holed ourselves up in a hotel for 2 days. And I would love to find those pictures because we were just writing on whiteboards, so many things.
Oh, right. We had all those. Yeah. Well,
it
and
was like
you guys remember, like, Chloe, you just
be in a box.
I'm sure they are. Chloe, you touched on it. Do you guys remember that the "Don't Stop Believin" song and the
I was just going to say, if we could find that
Google put together, and that was just like a moment of. There were tears. Like it was really.
I was on stage, bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We gave away
Caroline,
money at that conference. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Didn't she have a hard time getting there?
She did. She came from the
UK.
Yeah.
And she got lost
all the way from
somewhere.
The UK. Oh, in New York. Like it was a whole. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She ended up without her luggage at the conference. Yeah.
She did, and she'd put together this great video of all of the Anna pals, and it really was very touching. And I think that everybody walked away with that feeling that you just said, Chloe. Like it was not, people were like, wow, like we're doing something here. This is really, really cool. Yeah. And so that's why, right, we got together. We're like, we need to get, we can't let this idle. Like we need to get behind this and move it forward and see what else we can do.
So you don't need the business plan before you start.
Yeah, you don't even need a business plan.
Number one lesson.
I'm following that.
You need the business plan.
One of the interesting things was I had contacted a couple of the high-level bloggers I knew and said, I described what we were doing, and I said, we're going to create this pet blogging community after we have our conference, and this is what we're going to do. And it was kind of like we thought maybe having another powerhouse name would be helpful, and they turned us down flat. They were like, you don't know what you're doing. You can't. What are you, crazy? I'm not getting involved in that. And we're like, okay, fine. We'll do it without you.
And yet, who was our closing keynote speaker at that first event?
Well, Victoria Stillwell, right?
I'm sorry?
No, the closing
Victoria?
keynote speaker was at Lisa Camahor Page
Oh, that's right.
BlogHer.
BlogHer.
about her cat.
Well,
They
she got
knew
it.
that we were on to
She
something.
Yeah,
got
she
it.
got it.
Yes, she did.
Oh, they got
Right
it.
away.
But these were a couple of others. And the point I'm trying to make is sometimes even the people who you think are in the know
Yeah.
and say to you, don't do it, they don't know.
Yeah.
If you really, I mean, one of the things we haven't said here is that all of our conferences were pet friendly.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to explain to people the focus and the commitment to hotels that would allow us to bring in any size dog, animals like ferrets, and not, because we were not going to discriminate or tell people because unless you had a horse, nobody asked to bring their horse. I don't know what that would have done.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was pet friendly, so it was totally unique. No one was doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's like the mommy bloggers bringing their kids, because if they couldn't bring their kids, they weren't going to go. Same thing. The pet bloggers were like, if we can't bring our kids, why would we come?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
And that was, I mean, it was hard to find a venue, you guys know, that would allow all
Yes.
of that. And it, you know, you'd think, and then I think there were some that actually would not normally have allowed it, but they did
Right.
for us, which was really nice too.
Yeah.
Yes. We got exceptions, which worked against us sometimes, because then we'd get people calling that hotel directly and just getting like the general person who didn't realize that we had contracted in a way that alleviated a lot of the rules. And so they'd be told, no, you can't bring your cat, or no, you can't bring your ferret, or no, you can't bring your rat. You know, whatever it is, they would be told no. And we'd have to say, no, no, you really can, we promise. Because that was, I loved that about it. There was some focus that we just like, no, these are some of the lines we have and we don't stray from them. We are pet friendly. We get back to rescues. You know, we're focused on
that.
that.
Was the other thing.
Mhm.
And Caroline, I think you were big in that because it was part of a passion. I mean, we all had the passion to support pets anywhere, but I remember you really bringing that up, and how could we give back to the shelters and rescues?
Right.
Yeah,
I remember saying, oh, I can't wait. I've always wanted to stand on stage and give away one of those big checks.
I loved that part. I
that was
loved
the
that
best part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That last conference
And
in Myrtle
I was
Beach where
just
we
laughing
had
about,
tons.
Oh,
Go,
yeah.
Caroline. Yeah.
No, you go. Keep
I was
going.
going to say that was awesome.
Yeah.
Giving away so many big checks.
That would make a difference. I mean, they made a difference for these groups,
Yeah.
and people felt good about being part of the conference. And you know, you think about just the commitment of the team to making, like you were just saying, like we had certain things that we were not going to compromise on. One was pet friendly. One was making sure that we made enough to give money back to these groups. And the third piece was to create this amazing experience for people, like, you know, and keep the price affordable, right? So have great meals, have great food, have a great experience, but not charge $1,000 to go there, because we knew that our community couldn't afford that, and we wanted it to be accessible to people. So, you know, we had so many kind of elements that were critical.
Yeah, I think once maybe it was one of our team, after we had started hiring people because we needed extra people to help us, I think someone mentioned that there was a big difference between the BlogHer conference, where women would go and leave their kids home with dad or grandma, and the pet bloggers who, if they couldn't bring their pet, would have to put it in a kennel and now pay extra to have someone else take care of it. And that was, I mean, that really struck me as, wow, we need to talk more about that, because that's a big difference between us and them, so to speak, us and the other groups that were out there. And the other big thing to what we're talking about here is that people would say to me all the time if they interviewed me, so what's different about you? Why is your group different from anybody else? And I would say, well, I'll tell you. We have all the same kind of bloggers. Our bloggers write about health. They write about training. They write about politics. They write about this. They write about that. But all of them, every single one of them, is committed to giving back to shelters and rescues. And that is the foundation of what everything we do is built on, is how we can serve the foundations and the rescues and the shelters. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it connected a lot of people, and I mean, we made so many. Caroline, how much money did you raise as Romeo the cat?
$98,000.
A lot.
Over time, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, so to your point, Mom, I think she was a big part in bringing that forward. It was in everybody's hearts, and so it was very easy to implement something that everybody was very connected to.
Yeah.
And then we just kept doing it every year and giving away checks and giving away money, and letting our attendees nominate shelters and just all sorts of different ways. And I think I don't remember, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars between cash and goods that we ended up being able to give back.
And that tradition that grew up, I don't even remember whose idea it was originally, but of giving the vest to the canine, a local law enforcement canine.
That was Kristen Dewey.
So many things happened.
It was Kristen Dewey
Oh,
who came up with
yes,
that.
it was.
And originally we also did the face masks, the oxygen masks for the pets to the fire department.
Right.
But she was one of the first people. So it was us four for a long time, and then Carol Bryant came in and started helping, and Kristen Dewey came in and started helping, and Caroline, you wanted to go. Yep, but Caroline wanted to go have babies.
And she did.
And she did. Yeah. Two beautiful babies, two beautiful girls, and
only with fur on top, right?
Right.
And so she's always been around and a part of everything, but was less like in it. Like when we joined Pet 360, it was the three of us, and then Kristen and Carol. That was the group that joined with Pet 360, and right after that, Felissa started.
Okay.
That was kind of our core. That's kind of how that went.
Well, and I think also that the interesting thing was, Kristen was there. I think she came kind of because you introduced us to her, or us being Tom and I and Chloe, to Kristen, but Carol and Felissa stalked us. I mean, they literally stalked us and would write to us after every conference and say, "Are you ready to hire people?" Because yes, but exactly, they were like ready to get down and do the job and continue helping grow BlogPaws. But I can remember getting lots of emails and responding and taking their ideas and trying to keep encouraging them.
I had a heart-to-heart
when we weren't yet ready.
Global.
We speaking of global, I know we've got some.
You kind of froze there a minute, Tom.
Everybody has frozen a little bit. It's tech. So, but speaking of global, hopefully you can all hear me.
Stable.
Yes, we're all unstable. Are you back? I think we're back. Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of global, do you remember BlogPaws Best?
Speak for yourself.
Do y'all remember that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
We went around and that was probably the first time we went with like a team, right? It wasn't just us. We had Felissa there and Carol there, and we were doing touts.
Right.
That was a good time.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah.
I think, the most fun we had were the Twitter parties. The Twitter, Caroline, the Anna Pals and the Twitter, they just know how to have a party, let me tell you. I have not seen any other group do such a good job.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
we had bartenders, like everybody had jobs, and I mean, that was
There was music.
That's right, security, DJs.
Yeah.
A hashtag. Like, I remember, it was so hard to like. Did we use what was the platform that we used in bark parties or in paw parties?
There was a couple.
It wasn't Hootsuite. Maybe it was.
I used Hootsuite, but there was Tweet Chat. That was one. Tweet Chat.
Tweet Chat, that's the one.
Yeah. Because it moved so fast. Mm-hmm. It moved so fast. It was hard to like follow all the hashtags and
yeah.
But I mean,
people who had never been to a Twitter party, they would join in and I would get either tweets at myself or I'd get emails saying, this is going so fast I can't keep up. And you know, it was a rhythm that you had to have. Mm-hmm. And once you got to know people, it wasn't really all that fast because you could keep up, and it really did. I think the function of when we had sponsored Twitter parties, it was perfect. It was really perfect because the bloggers and the people attending did get to learn more because the brands got smart and started sending actual people and not just, oh, here, tweet about this or send them to this link. They would send actual people, PR people or marketing people who could talk to the bloggers, and that's what we wanted. I mean, that was, when it comes down to the brands and the bloggers, we wanted the conversations. We wanted them to meet face-to-face at the conference. So if you had a question about the brand, you could talk to a real person. And, you know, so unique. There's nothing like BlogPaws out there now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No.
TweetDeck, that was the other one.
Even mentioned is
TweetDeck. Yes.
What were you say, Tom?
One thing that we haven't even mentioned, the educational piece. Am I not on?
You are. It's just everybody's a little laggy right now. Facebook doesn't like us. I hear you.
You're kind of on.
Oh, okay.
Twitter likes us.
So much bandwidth.
I know, right? Lots of bandwidth, yeah.
But the educational piece that the conference started out with kind of grew on its own into the community and then into a separate learning center that we were building. So there was a serious reason for people to be there, not just get together and have fun.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's a lot of people here right now talking about all they've learned and how it elevated their blog and the community and everything. I think that's huge, all of it. We had many reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like it just, that period of time really launched a lot of opportunities for people, and it just, so many connections and people who are still connected today, and you know, it's just incredible. You know, it's 10 years later, you know, and we're still talking, and there's still, you know, a community out there, and there's still brands, and you know, I have a ton of LinkedIn friends and Facebook friends that are from that period of time that, you know, we've stayed in touch. And so, you know, not only from a personal standpoint, but professionally, it's just, it was a really great networking opportunity for anybody interested in the pet industry, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's kind of wrap up with a favorite memory.
Was always, okay.
Sorry, well, that can be yours. Tom, why don't you start? It doesn't have to be the favorite,
every
but
single
a
conference,
favorite.
and I guess this would qualify probably. Every single conference, at least 2 or 3 people would come up to me and tell me a story about what Caroline just said, about some way that their blog changed, some opportunity they got from people they met at one of our conferences, or one of our online events in between. And it just gave me chills every single time that we sitting around saying, oh sure, we can do this, that it led to changing lives that way. That's my favorite memory.
Yeah.
Caroline, what do you got?
There's so many, but the funniest memory is when we were in Virginia, in Tyson's Corner, right?
Yep.
And it was the year that our keynote was the Rescue Inc. guys.
Right.
Those big, huge motorcycle guys that went around. And that was also the year that there was a hurricane that hit the East Coast. And I was living on Long Island in New York at the time. And I had driven my little station wagon down to the conference, my little like Jetta station wagon. And everybody was trapped like at the conference. So there's so many funny stories to do with that. But I had to get back, and the Rescue Inc. guys actually lived very close to me on Long Island. I didn't know this. And they were like trying to get out, trying to get back to their families, and they couldn't get out, and they were all getting very agitated. I was like, I'll take you. And they were like, okay. And they actually ended up in my car taking me, because they like, they're like, all right, get in the back seat. And they were like, their heads were up at the top of the car, these big guys driving my little thing like 95 miles an hour back to New York. And I was laughing the whole time. And they dropped me off at my house and with my car, and I don't know, like Jimmy or one of their friends came and picked them up there, and that was funny. But that whole conference was funny. Yeah.
I don't know if the picture is still online anywhere, but when I was on stage with those guys, and one of these huge biker guys put me in a headlock and was giving me noogies on stage.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
I don't remember what I said to upset him.
Nice. All right, Mom, what do you got?
My favorite part of BlogPaws was always the Nose to Nose Awards. We ended the conference, and the second conference, I think we had our first Nose to Nose Awards, and it was a luncheon.
Denver,
It was a luncheon, and then we changed it to being a black tie event to close the conference out. Yes, hence Tom's shirt. And
because I don't do black tie.
All of the attendees would bring their pets all dressed up to the nines. You showed one of the videos recently, Chloe, and I can't tell you how that just would thrill me to see everybody come all dressed up, and they'd have their dogs and their cats, and Terry would be pushing Coco and stroller, and there was nothing better than that. And then during the awards themselves, watching people win the awards, because we had taken the time to look carefully at their blogs for best dog, best cat, best picture, best whatever it was. And it wasn't just a popularity contest. We did not make people vote to get them a win. It was actually judged by judges that we chose, and that was the best part for me, because it really gave back to the bloggers.
Yeah,
great point. Yeah.
I love all those memories. I feel like we could go on and
yours,
on.
Chloe? What's yours, Chloe?
Mine is the way in which we consistently were able to give back, because I always felt like that was collective, right? It was from BlogPaws giving back, but it was collective in the sense that the only way we were able to even have funds to donate and all of that was because of our community. And so that always felt very collective to me, not to mention I really liked the big checks. Thought those were cool. But I just, that part of the event, or, there were times in the middle of the year where we were able to do different things and give back. And that kind of thing, or even when we had the BlogHer Disaster Response Network, remember that?
Yep.
I wish we had had the manpower to really
Yeah.
make that something, because those kinds of efforts that really are about a community coming together to do something to benefit another organization or other people, that was kind of always my favorite. Yeah. So many good memories. It's hard to pick just
It
one.
is.
Oh yeah.
Every event has stories, and remember this and remember that, and familiar faces, and so I know that sense still lives, that passion still lives, and it's good to know that lifelong friendships were created because of really the three of you saying, we can do this. And I'm happy that I was a part of it. Yes. So,
We
okay.
didn't know what we didn't know.
It was probably a good thing you didn't. Made you
Oh,
fearless.
absolutely. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and get started. It'll figure itself out.
So if that is if anyone is looking for a lesson or a takeaway in all of this, I think it is that you will figure it out. If you want to do it, you don't learn until you start. So
That's right.
start it. All right. Well, thank you very, very much to all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was fun.
Caroline, it was good to see you.
I know. All right. Wave bye to everybody, and we're
Bye,
gonna
everybody.
tune on out. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was good to see everybody. Bye-bye.